After 8.
You saying after 8? Okay.
I was thinking actually more like 8:30.
You think more like 8:30?
But I'm saying.
Hey,
it'd
we
be
were
more-
out here at 8:10 last meeting.
I know.
We don't have near as much as last
We don't
time.
have nearly as much.
I'm with.
Come on, man. I'm in.
I'm with David on this one.
Okay, there we go. That's his verbal look.
All right.
This sucker started.
Right, if I may have your attention, we are reconvening from recess at 6:30 PM. And we are in open session and we will act as deemed appropriate in city council's discretion regarding A, consultation with legal counsel concerning any regular meeting agenda item requiring confidential attorney-client advice necessitated by the deliberation or discussion of said item as needed.
No action.
Consultation with legal counsel regarding a water service agreement with Draper Estates.
No
No
action.
action.
C, consultation with attorney regarding legal options for solicitation of donations on utility bills for charitable purpose.
No
No
action.
action.
All right, so we now enter our regular council meeting. If you would, Sandra, please note that we have all of our council here. We have yourself, we have Josh, we have Danny, our police chief, Aaron, our city attorney, Dave, our IT guy. Back there, we have Roy with Development Service, Eric, our engineer, Star, I was going to say, I saw Star earlier, Star, and then we have two of our municipal judges, Judge Durbin and Judge Madison with us tonight. If you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the U.S. and the Texas flags. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Couldn't look away.
All right, we start with citizen comments. In accordance with the Open Meetings Act, council is prohibited from acting or discussing other than factual responses to specific questions, any items not on the agenda. I have no one signed up for citizen comments. However, if there's anybody in the audience who would like to take this opportunity to address the council, please do so. All right, hearing none, we will move into items of community interest. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.0415, the city council may report on any of the following items: expressions of thanks, gratitude, and condolences, information regarding holiday schedules, recognition of individuals and proclamations, reminders regarding city council events, reminders regarding community events, or health and safety announcements. Personally, I want to express my gratitude for everybody that volunteered for the cleanup day. I haven't seen the final numbers on it, but from what I understand, despite the weather, it was quite the event. I know I was personally at the household hazardous waste site by the swimming pool, and at least 300 gallons of oil and 3,000 gallons of paint. Can't tell you how many tires, televisions, everything else, batteries, everything else that came in. It was quite the event. So everyone that volunteered and participated and the community that took the advantage of the opportunity to get rid of their stuff, thank you very much. Let's see, what else? We got Lago Fest, which is May 11th. That's after our next council meeting, but I'll go ahead and mention that. And did you have something you wanted to say on that?
Yeah, it's
David?
Saturday on May 11th. It's from noon to 8 p.m. We have 5 different bands, so it should be a great time to be out there. You can go on lagofest.com and see all the different events and all the booths and all the sponsors that we have that are going to be out there with booths. So it should be, it's at the Barcade Park in Lago Vista. And we're searching for volunteers right now, so please go online and volunteer your time to participate in this. We have a great husband and wife team that's acting as the volunteer coordinator, and they've had great experience with doing volunteer events like this, so it should be a good time for the volunteers also. So look forward to having a good time on May 11th. Hope everyone comes.
And it's noon to 9.
Hmm?
The time, noon to
From noon to 8 p.m.
8.
I mean, 9
9
p.m.
p.m.
9 p.m.
Mr. Mayor, for those of you who get the chance, the Lions Club is having a pancake breakfast at the Jonestown Fire Department on Saturday from 8 o'clock until noon. All you can eat pancakes, bacon, coffee, juice, and milk. $6 for adults, $4 for kids. You got a house full of company coming in. This is a great place to take them for breakfast. Bring them over and they can just eat all the pancakes and bacon they want. You don't have to mess up your kitchen until lunch. But would appreciate the support of the community. This is an event that not only supports the Lions Club, but we also contribute money to the fire department to help pay for things that aren't in their budget. So come out and help us out on Saturday from 8 until noon.
All right, anyone else? Josh? No? All right, at this time, I want to invite the members of the Independent Writers Group to come up to the stage.
First, thank you, Mayor, for having us out here last year for our first event here. And,
Stand by me, so it's a photo opportunity.
yes, sir.
So the people watching on YouTube can see y'all as well.
Are we on YouTube?
So before
Yes, sir.
you speak, May is Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month. And as we do every year, as we have for the last couple of years, the council in the city of Lago Vista likes to proclaim May as Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month. And that is what we are doing tonight. And
Well, my job's done. This is great.
now you need to say a few words on why.
I will, my name is Matt Helms. I represent a independent group, but also speak for the biker community, clubs, independents, whatnot. May is very important to us. A lot of us, if y'all don't know, well, just some personal stories. 2 weeks we're burying some ashes. I have a mother who lost her only son because a car pulled out in front of him. Ursa's boyfriend right now is going through months of rehab because a car pulled out in front of him and he T-boned it, broke his pelvis and his ribs. So what we're asking is for people to look twice. Please put down your cell phones, get rid of anything hanging in your mirrors, anything that can block your view. Motorcycles are small, and we know that. We know the risks. We leave every day, but we ride to work, we ride for fun, we ride for benefits and charities. And we're just asking for cars to please take the extra second, check your mirror again. When you're coming out of a parking lot, look down the street again. We're small, we're not visible, our speeds, we're coming up a lot faster than you think. We need the whole lane. Give us the lane, because if there's a pothole, debris, dead squirrel, whatever, we got to maneuver around it. And we'll stay with our lane if we just have our personal space, I guess. I had a lot to say, but it all went blank now, so I'll just leave it at that. So the main thing, like I said, please put cell phones down. Please educate your kids. If they're starting to drive, educate people at your work. Just look twice. That's our main goal. I got a bunch of stats, but that will bore y'all to death, so I'll leave it at just on a personal note, please look out for us. We're looking out for y'all. We will maneuver around y'all as much as we can, but look twice. I don't know what to say.
Well, we all live out here. We're all very familiar with 1431.
Yes.
We know we're on the lake. We know this is a highly desired area for riding on the weekends. And not only is it the people that do it on a daily basis, but there are clubs that will come out here 100 and 150 bikes strong on the weekends. And you will see them going down 1431, headed to Marble Falls or wherever.
Absolutely.
So
Round Top,
we
Cow
know where-
Creek, 1174, 1869, they're all great roads out here. We love this area, so.
So, yeah, so on behalf of City of Lago Vista and the council, we are proclaiming May as Motorcycle Safety Month.
Thank you, sir. What do you have anything to add?
Oh, yeah, you want to fill up the next 2 hours of statistics?
No.
Okay, there, go stand up next to the mayor and get those pictures together. I did bring
I'll
mine.
pull this back a little bit.
Thanks, sir.
One of the things that Matt was talking about and boring you with the statistics, thank you, there's just under 400,000 registered vehicles in the state of Texas. Motorcycles represent 1.5% of all those registered vehicles. There are days you could go with never seeing a bike. You get your muscle memory cued to looking for cars, you forget to learn for the bikes, like Brother said, which twice.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'll be going on that.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
How you been?
Stay doing great. Stay safe. Call me next week.
All right, anybody else have anything else? All right, we will move into our action items. Agenda item number 3, discussion and action on resolution number 19-1797, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Lago Vista, Texas, approval of Travis Central Appraisal District real estate acquisition. And who's got the lead on this? My computer is.
It's gonna be Star, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Star. If you would, please.
Okay, the item in front of you is just a business item, basically. Travis County, the appraisal district, like many of the other entities now, has outgrown its space. This time of year especially, they bring on extra staff. People try to help get all the tax certifications done on the property evaluations. They have to do about 95% of those before they can certify the roll, and we're waiting for that certified roll so we can start working on budget. Their protests have tripled, more than tripled in the last 13 years. So they're desperately needing space, but the tax code requires that if they buy another building or any other real estate, they have to have 75% of their units under them, giving them that approval. They've been renting every year, and they thought they had a place rented again for this year, and they wound up canceling the contract and gave it to the biker rally instead. I thought that's what the guys were here for. So anyway, that's what they're asking. They're just asking you to put this on they need a resolution from the council as one of the taxing units under the appraisal district to agree to let them do that. They have to have 75% of the constituents to do it. Doesn't mean any more money to the city. They have enough money already in reserves and/or will be making that much revenue year to year anyway. They're going to lease their own building or sell it, whichever will happen first, and that money also would be applied toward that purchase.
Gotcha.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Star?
There were, I think, 6 different places they chose to look at for this purchase. And the one that they settled on has a purchase price of $10 million.
10 is the cap they've put on themselves.
Okay. And all the others came in
Higher.
higher than that considerably. So just wanted to point out that they did their due diligence in getting the best price, the best deal that they could find.
Yeah, it looks like square footage, cost per square foot was the lowest of all the ones they were considering.
Yeah, 2.95.
All right. Well, if we don't have any other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Are we going, so we're going to vote on this to, what's the vote going to be for?
For the resolution.
On the resolution.
Support of the purchase.
I just have one counter thought on, after reading this and protesting my taxes for the last few years and seeing the process and the system down there, it seemed like instead of adding people and more overhead, that maybe they would just be a little less aggressive with the taxation and not have 30 or 40% of the population protesting. if you got that many people protesting, you're probably doing something wrong. So maybe they would scale it back and work within their means, and then it wouldn't hurt everyone every year on what they're paying for the property taxes. That's my opinion.
It's a more efficient use of the money they have as opposed to spending $10 million
Right,
on.
they've got it in reserves, clearly they're doing okay, but if you've ever gone down there and fought with them, it's a terrible sequence of events. Not fun.
Mr. Mayor, I'd agree with Ms. Barlow that it seems that they could approach this from a different direction, but we have no control and no ability to direct that. And all they're asking for us to do is simply say that if they've got the money, they want to spend it, that's what they need to do. We give our approval to letting them do that. And it essentially costs the city nothing. It's definitely going to cost our taxpayers. There's no question about that. But
We could just as easily not give them our vote, right? We could advise them to try to work within their means more, and
We could protest it our own way.
Well,
we don't have to get in line necessarily.
along those lines, I don't know, Star, do you know what percentage we represent of their, what did you call this?
Of the taxing units? No, it would be everybody that collects the tax within the county, so it would be schools.
I don't
The
know what,
cities,
I don't
everything.
know what percentage of the taxing units our city represents, but if we did not support this resolution, they have to have 95%.
No, they have to have
75%. Oh,
75%.
75%.
And that's just to
if
buy a
other
building.
If other taxing units went the same direction we do, if they don't reach 75%, then they cannot move forward on this.
They can't move forward on this, but they still will have to go, what they will they'd go do is rent another facility, because they're doing that every year anyway. They've rented out the Expo Center before. And again, they thought they had it in October until it was canceled on them, but they are going to have to go ahead in order to get those roles certified to have space to bring on the staff to do it. So whether we give them permission to do this or not, they'll just continue to rent in order to accommodate what they need.
And would you have any idea of what they pay in rent when
No.
they had to rent?
I have no idea.
But this is a purchase, right?
This would be to purchase a building in lieu of renting and owning the other building, and then they would either lease or rent out either rent that building that they now have or sell it outright if they can.
Do you know if they pay taxes on it?
I don't know.
no.
I don't know. They might be exempt. We're exempt as a city.
I would think so.
Having talked to a couple of those guys down there over the last several years, several of them, they feel like if enough people don't protest their taxes or even make a statement like we could make right here, then they're doing a fine job. But I think everyone that owns property could understand that the property taxes are out of control, and if we all just keep agreeing with them, then they're going to keep doing business as usual. So whether we make any difference or not by endorsing them or not endorsing what they're trying to do, I feel like even a small signal to them that they need to take a little step back. They're going for 100% market valuation is what they told me, and they're trying to make up for years where they didn't get enough. And my feeling is that when you shoot for 100% of market value, the market goes up and down. So half the time you're overtaxing people. And when they comp a commercial building in Lago Vista, I'm seeing comps, everyone gets the same 375-page comp packet as was last year, and they're comping a commercial building out here that's got no utilities to a convenience store on Anderson Mill Road. So if I were to bring a real estate comp like that to a business meeting, I'd be laughed out. So I feel like we can send a little message here. That's my feeling about it.
So they're not a taxing entity in themselves, so they're funded by the taxing units. So how much do we send the appraisal district from our city?
I don't know. I don't even know would have to just contact them and ask them all the details on Erin, do you know? I don't know how that breaks down on their level.
Okay, does it come off of the taxes we collect? Do they get a percentage of?
Being a part of the whole district, they would be being funded by all of the revenue coming in, one of which would be the property taxes.
I was just wondering if it was a fee-based thing or if it was a percentage.
Probably a percentage, just like the taxes we set 65 cents, and so that's what Lago Vista is getting out of it, and so on and so on.
Right, but do they get how are they funded? Do they get a portion of our 65 cents?
No, we
and then a
get that,
portion of
we
the-
get that 65 cents that we set. But they are also getting some, and other school districts are getting money from Lago Vista, and there's just several. If you look at your tax bill, it's broken down into multiple different.
Right.
But the 65 cents is based on per $100 evaluation, and this appraisal district sets that valuation, so.
No, we set that value.
No, we set the 65 cents.
Yes.
But they determine what they think the property's worth.
Right, I was
And
just
if their
trying-
comps are ludicrous,
It's
then,
gone up 10% a year compounded.
Right, because that's the
30%.
maximum they can, or it'd probably go up more, but I was just trying to figure out where their funding comes from. Where does the appraisal district get their funding? You know, because that is, when I look at mine, they're not a taxing entity like the school board or ESD1 or the city or,
The appraisal district is a Travis County function. It's
is
a
it?
Travis County department. So it gets its funding through the county.
So the county,
They're county
the
employees.
tax rate that we pay to the county covers the appraisal district expenses?
Yeah, it's a department under Travis County. So it is the Travis County Appraisal District.
right.
Mayor, I appreciate the council members' comments. I don't know how many times the councils in the past have expressed their concerns about how we're appraised. However, I think we can do something about that, but that's not what's on the agenda. I think we've got a real estate deal, and it looks like the numbers with respect to a real estate deal are okay. Now, if we want to try to help fix, I think we could do some stuff in that area. I just don't think the way to do that is just to say no. I think we ought to start acting with them and take action to try to improve their appraising. That's just not what we're doing tonight.
I would think it would be more appropriate if we want to take action to get their attention, that we pass a resolution that definitely says that. Because not approving this, I think basically it's going to be okay. They didn't approve it. Doesn't make any difference. I don't think that this, not approving this is going to send any kind of message. I don't think it's going to say anything to them.
I think they need the space because they're doing a poor job and they're getting too many protests, and you just,
And I would not argue with that.
Well-
I think you're right, but I don't think not approving this,
I agree.
It's
It's not
gonna
going to
send a
change
message.
anything. You're right. It's not going to change anything.
Purchase.
And the pattern may also be driven by the fact that there's more and more building that is occurring here, so they have more and more properties to appraise, so I'm not too sure I agree with
If they get this new building, I would advise you to all go protest your taxes once and see what it's like.
I did, didn't do me any good.
Yeah.
there you go.
But I agree with Councilman.
Well, this is of course, you read the document, and it's over a 13-year period, but supposedly their protests have gone from roughly 47,000 to 143,000. So
Yep.
I'm sure they're basing this just on the protests, but that's, that's 300% increase in 13 years, so.
Right.
But the cost of living also continues to go up. There are a lot of other factors, I think, that play into this.
Majoring and minors on this one.
Right.
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion that we approve resolution number 19-1797.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay?
All right, motion carries 6-1. We go to number 4. Discussion and action on resolution number 19-1798, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Lago Vista, Texas, authorizing the appropriation of $2,000 to the Turnback Canyon Trail Conservancy in support of their development of a sustainable network of trails on the north shore of Lake Travis.
Mayor, this is the second time that the council has seen this item. This is a request that has come from the Turnback Canyon Trail Conservancy, as you already said, requesting support for their system, their planning system, and then this year for the construction of some of the trails. As we've already said, they're looking for approximately 1.5 miles of trails this year and would like to go ahead and have that project started so that they can begin the tie-in between Lakeside at Tessera, the sports complex, and the Balcones trail system.
And where's the funding coming from?
It would come from our community support out of the general fund.
Questions?
No, well, but we've talked so much about doing these trails, so I mean, I think we need to support their efforts to get it going and to tie it in. And, 1.5 miles, that's a start, and we'll continue to develop the trail as we move forward.
Well, and we've known this is, something for the entire city.
Right.
We knew from when we decided to support them developing as a conservancy, that at some point, they're gonna want and need city support if it's gonna be a city public trail and everything like that, so we knew that at some point they would be coming to the city, so this is not an unexpected expense, and they're asking for $2,000. We have the funds designated in that general fund, community fund. So,
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to,
I
do you have a question?
I have a question
Oh, I'm
before you
sorry.
make the motion. So the mile and a half that we're talking about appropriating money for, is that all in one place, or is that, or are there more than one places where this development is going to occur?
Mayor, what they're working on now in their master plan is to create the, trying to think of the word, let's say the parking areas, so that they build the trails out, whatever that, trailheads, that's the word. So they want to find out where those trailheads are going to be, and then what I've talked to Carl Diekman about is they would build segments of trails, smaller segments, and then they would be able to connect those at a later time. So potentially right now, they would have smaller segments that tie into the whole 1.5 miles, but all that 1.5 miles of trail may not be connected right off the bat, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Theoretically, they could work on the area between the Balcones and the sports complex now, or they could look at our new sports complex and bring that back to our current sports complex as potential trail options.
Okay.
any other questions? All right, if there's nothing more, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve resolution number 19-1798.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion carries unanimous. All right, item number 5, discussion and possible action on resolution number 19-1799, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Lago Vista, Texas, authorizing the City of Lago Vista to enter into an interlocal agreement with Vigilant Solutions and the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles to provide warrant redemption services utilizing vehicle registration holds. I would like to note, as I'm reading this is the first time this was put on the agenda for your all's consideration.
Mayor, on this item, and that is exactly how it would start. This is the first reading and presentation to council to look at the Vigilant Services and our Vigilant Solutions. One of the things that we see in all of our departments that are revenue collecting is if we're not collecting funds as we should be, we have to find manners in which we're going to be successful. Part of a couple of the trainings that our staff has gone to come back and say, we have programs that can help, as we put in the staff summary, leverage data and technology to help us attract people to paying fines, warrants, zeroing out dollars that are owed to the city in some shape, form, or fashion. This is one system, program, partnership that could work to help us alleviate some of the outstanding fines, fees, and bring in a revenue stream to the municipal court system. But also, it's not just about the dollars for the municipal court system. From our stance, it's about the enforcement. You know, we want to see some accountability and some action based on the actions taken in our court and bringing people back here. Hopefully, the ultimate goal is that you reduce the total number of offenders within our community by enforcing the fines and other things that they have to adhere to.
So I have a question, and maybe Chief Smith can educate me on this, because I don't know. But it seemed to me like if you got a warrant issued by somebody, that it went into a system that was a countywide or even a larger system, and the constables, county constables oversaw the warrants and stuff like that. So if a person went to get a driver's license or to register their vehicles, this was already in the system. Is that not the case?
Well, that depends. Warrants above a Class B are in an entirely different system. DPS to the Omni, that's typically when people go to renew their driver's license. If we're in partnership with them, which we are and have been, as far as I know. At that time, if someone shows up and they have a warrant, then they'll flag them at that point. The constable's office, we can enter into a interlocal agreement, and I certainly think we should. And they will collect on our warrants, and we don't have to pay for it, the offender does, once they're processed, so. They don't charge anything for it, so.
Is that also for Class B and above, or do they do A as well?
Typically, we're talking about our Class C traffic
Class C.
warrants, yeah.
Get my alphabet backwards. So Class C, so they'll do all levels.
Warrants above a Class C, we have in our computer through DPS, and, they're generated to everybody. So this is, all they're talking about is municipal traffic stuff.
Thank you.
Well, that would be a better way to go than to deal with this.
Yes, sir. In my opinion, yes, it would.
We have a system in place now.
We need to do an interlocal with Precinct 2 to have them do that, but it's really not that big a deal. Our attorneys can draft it up, and the county attorney advises or signs on their end, so we're good.
Okay.
Chief, I'd like to know how many constables are available to do that? Do they have a fairly good-sized staff?
Yes, sir, they do. There's several different precincts, but Precinct 2 is out here. But, I mean, these folks are all over the county, not just in Lago Vista.
Okay.
They're involved in a lot of civil actions as well, evictions. They typically run into a lot of folks that have warrants on them when they're serving evictions. And that's part of the issue. These folks aren't the most dependable people. They tend to get evicted a lot. They move around a lot. They sublet. It's, the ones that generally, goes to a warrant and they've been out for a while, they're trying to delay it as long as they can, I can assure you.
Okay.
So
But again, they're all over the county, so.
All right.
So the outstanding warrants and writs that we're talking about here, is that because we're not utilizing the services that we are already part of or have access to? Or is it because it's something that, it's a service that we don't currently have access to? Does that make sense?
No, it didn't.
I mean, is this just stuff that's fallen through the cracks that the county and the higher up DPS and stuff have not, they just haven't picked these people up? Or is is these warrants, we will never see these warrants collected unless we bring in an outside.
Mayor, now I understand that one now, and I would say, I don't know the answer. I can tell you that if there is a system that is supposed to be doing this, there's no chance they're doing it effectively with the amount of dollars that we still have sitting out there and the lack of accountability. That's why I said earlier, and I can appreciate the chief's comments, with other communities using the same service as I don't know if we put this in here, but Jonestown and Lakeway using this service, there's a reason why you hire out a contractor to do it. It's because they work for you at that point and they're going to push through this. I don't know the constables office like the chief knows them, so I can't tell you if I'm to call the constable's office and say, hey, we've got this agreement, are you going to push for this? But I can tell you if we've got a contractor that we're working with directly, they will serve what we're asking them to serve, or they'll no longer be the contractor. Same thing would be if we do an agreement with someone else, but there's got to be a reason, and in our conversations with other communities, there's a reason they're doing it. It's because they're getting some kind of effective return on a process. Right now, even I think our number on the KPS Pro fines, I think we said we're 120,000 or so. If that's sitting out there and we're collecting zero on that, even though we're paying a 30% collection fee on that, we're getting zero. If we get it collected, we're going to capture 70% of that, which now we're getting nothing out of it. So in terms of having a subcontractor or a contractor help us with the process to, as this says, just pester the heck out of people, those are effective systems in some areas.
They're gonna serve warrants, but they don't have any arresting power.
No, I'm saying they're going to get people into the court system by saying, hey, if you owe this, they're going to try and set up a system, bring them back.
From what I understand, they put a registration hold, so when you go to register your vehicle,
Don't
You
we
wouldn't
do that
be-
already? I mean, there's an officer into every license.
Well, through the Omni program, you've got to get, yeah, through DL. But in order to get your car registered, you got to have a current DL.
Right.
In order to get insurance, you got to have a current,
Yeah.
DL. So, I mean, that's kind of how that works. You eventually will get to somebody, provided they do. But, the problem is, a lot of folks drive around without a driver's license, without insurance, and without,
You said
proper
they're
registration.
mobile and everything else. I think we should use every available means that we can use without having to pay more.
well, we have, in the audience, we have our municipal judges with us. Would y'all like to comment on?
Yeah, I'll make a comment, and I'll probably defer to Kevin here a couple times because he's a municipal judge in several different cities, and I just work here. But firstly, you have essentially two things you have to be looking at, okay? There are people that have been convicted who asked to be put on a payment plan, or they got convicted on a deferred sometime after because they didn't do what they were supposed to. But anyway, we have a final conviction, can't be appealed. It's a real charge. That money is owed. It is owed to the city. What we issue in that case is something called a KPS Pro fine, and it is a writ, which is, in layman's terms, would be a warrant. And it basically says, pick them up to finish this off, is really what the Latin means. And the theory is to pick them up, put them in jail, and the amount that they owe is on the warrant. And if they pay that money, they get a walk out of jail. The current political climate, that's not particularly acceptable, particularly if they get arrested someplace other than here, because one of us has to deal with them if they're going to do anything other than pay the full fine. Because there are judgments, that means only our judges from our jurisdiction can change them. The other part, and that's about $140,000, if I remember right. And then there are a whole bunch of people, and you'll see a number. I think it's on the the deal, it's like 500 or 600, some crazy number like that. But that's not accounts receivable. Those people they've been charged with the crime. They have not been convicted. In most cases, they haven't been to court. So effectively, they are fugitives. We've issued warrants for them, and those are generally arrest warrants. The idea is to basically get them to court, but they also, in many cases, have picked up a second charge. If they don't show up for one charge, they get another charge. You can't go crazy with that, but if you don't show up for your $200 charge and you get a $500 charge slapped on top of you and on a warrant, and obviously any of these warrants, whether it's the KPS Pro fines or these other warrants, they're subject to arrest at work at any time. They get stopped in their car, in front of their kids. They're subject to warrants. I mean, they're subject to arrest, to be picked up and locked up. The Omni program, which is similar in its compulsion of people, where they basically go to get a driver's license, and the people with the driver's license say, look, we're not giving you a driver's license unless you get these warrants cleaned up. Well, and as Chief says, there's plenty of people out here that don't care. They just drive around without a license. But there are quite a few that will actually say, oh my gosh, I wasn't aware of it. I got that ticket in Lago Vista and forgot all about it, and I live in Houston, and now I'll take care of it. And we'll have people that'll come in from 10 years ago, and they'll say, I need to get square, and they'll pay up if they don't want to come back. Otherwise, they can set it for court, and they can come into court. But quite frankly, if they come into court, you're not going to collect any money on it, because the prosecutor is dismissing most of the cases that are more than 2 years old. Okay? So if you got a case from a warrant from 2005, which I've seen in our files, and I'm sure that number's included in that 590,000, I mean, the chances of prosecuting that is, if they come in and want to fight it, you're not going to collect any of that money. So that, of the 140,000, that's real money. The rest of it isn't. They haven't been convicted. They're not guilty until they're found to be convicted. And so that money is out there. This compulsion works. It works with the Omni program. The Omni program costs $30 a head. When somebody's got a warrant, we pay, and they wind up paying it. The defendants wind up paying the $30. The statute that allows the DMV to not register vehicles, it frankly states that they can charge $20, period, not 30%. Okay, so I don't know what this company's doing. Well, I do know what they're doing. They're trying to say that they're a bill collector, and they're collecting under another statute that allows bill collectors to collect 30%. Now, the fact is, to be a bill collector in the state of Texas, you have to post a bond with the Secretary of State. I looked today for vigilant in that listing. They're not there. So I don't know what they're doing. And then lastly, the thing that's happening right now is some of these organizations are changing. Driver's license, I believe, are getting moved over to DMV for DPS. Okay, so you're going to have at some point either Omni or one of these companies is going to do one-stop shopping, where you can hold up their driver's license, you can hold up their car registration, you can hold up their boat registration, their title changes, anything like that. But it isn't here yet because they're still moving that stuff around. But I don't know what this group is doing. I like the concept of using these other licenses to leverage people, but I don't, from what I can tell, there's no lawful basis for them to take 30%. Anyway, but that's my thoughts on it. And when you do have a bill collector, they cannot serve warrants, they cannot execute, they can't arrest you, they can send letters and call people during dinner, okay? Now, the people that haven't taken care of this for 10 years, what do you think they're gonna do with those letters and phone calls? And that's not gonna be the only phone call they get. I mean, they get phone calls from hundreds of bill collectors, all right? I don't know if any of you guys have ever been poor. I have, all right? There was a time when bill collector, I'd ask them if they gave me frequent flyer miles, and then I'll move them to the top of the pile, okay? But there's not, and it's with all of these contract things, and I think Judge Madison can attest to this, is because he works in several different cities, and I think he's seen it. They will come in with a rush, kind of a bull rush. They'll get something like this, then it'll go down like this, and then it'll level off down here. It's the compulsion of licensing is great. The state's trying to make it easy, but something about this particular deal is not right, because it ought to be just like Omni. Got it. And 20 or 30 bucks. I don't know what it is. Judge Madison, have you got anything to add to that? Go right ahead.
Thank you.
Mayor, council members. Okay, so I'm familiar with both the systems, Vigilant and also with using the constables precinct 2, and we've used precinct 5. So just in summation, it's confusing. It's confusing for attorneys, it's confusing for judges. It took me 5 years to figure it all out, and I'm an attorney. But the bottom line is there's 2 types of warrants. If somebody has a speeding ticket and they don't show up in court, we issue an arrest warrant, okay? The case has not been adjudicated. In Texas, unlike some other states, if you don't show up for court, you can't find them guilty in absentia without them being there. But in some states, you can on class C misdemeanors. In Texas, our founding fathers said, no, got to be there. But you can't issue a warrant for their arrest. So it's not really an accounts receivable. What it is you haven't come to court, you got a warrant, there's an amount posted on there. That's the amount that you can add all up, but that's bail money, basically. As Judge Durbin said, if somebody shows up in court and they plead to the charge or mail in the money and they just never finish paying it, or they violate the terms of their probation, like a deferred disposition, that's a judgment. And that's a capias pro fine. You owe the city, this court, that money. You can use whatever means to collect. You can even do a writ of execution and things like that and take their property. Most courts don't. But I can speak to the Vigilant. The Vigilant system's kind of cool, and just in essence, I don't know anything about the registration, but I do know when I checked into this, because I've taught some classes for this at the Municipal Court Education Centers, our county tax officials that issue our license plates will not enforce a denial of registration in Travis County if you don't pay, if you got active warrants, okay? That's just, it's the Kool-Aid they're drinking in Austin, okay? Let's just be honest about it. It's just, they don't want to do it. Go out to Montgomery County or Fort Bend and places that are more conservative, you're not getting your license plates till you pay off these warrants. We're not saying you're guilty, we're not saying you're innocent. Go to court and take care of it the way everybody else does. That's the way to deal with it. It's not going to happen in Travis County because that's Travis County. But be that as it may, the Vigilant system is pretty cool. We used it at Lakeway. My marshal out there has it. It's a license plate recognition system. So if you have a warrant and this person drives a Ford F-150 with license plates, whatever, that's inputted into the system at Vigilant. So if your officer's out driving around, he's got cameras on 1 or 2 cars, and they're driving down 1431, it's amazing. The technology, actually, to me, it's astounding. It can scan license plates as they're driving 30, 40 miles an hour and get a hit within half of a second. I mean, literally less than that. It'll pop up on the screen, say you got a hit, that vehicle that just passed you, it's got active warrants with the city of Lago Vista. So the officer turns around, pulls them over, you got to go to court or you're going to jail, and we got to get this warrant taken care of. That's how that works. But Vigilance, pretty smart the way they do it. I don't know anything about the pay portal or how that's done, but I know their technology is pretty good, and my marshal had pretty good success using Vigilant because it incorporates that license plate recognition, but it goes further. Repo companies use Vigilant. So if you have a repo company that's up in Round Rock or Waco or Georgetown or Burnett County, they're cruising parking lots at Walmart and apartment complexes. They get a hit and your data, your warrants are inputted, it'll flag you and your police department and Vigilant and say, hey, that vehicle you were looking for is sitting over at the Walmart or the apartment complex over in Johnson City. That's where they live now. The one that didn't give you the right address, that's where they're at. So it's pretty crafty and useful. It'll actually organize it by zip code, so your warrant officer can go out if you have a warrant officer and try and serve it. So it is another tool that can be very useful. Now, very quickly, Omni system was started about 20 years ago. My court in Cedar Park was the pilot program for that Omni program. It's a private provider that's joined up with DPS. And if you have an active warrant in any court, municipal court in Texas, you can put a driver's license non-renewal hold on that person. As the chief said, DPS won't allow cities to put those Class C warrants because there's millions and millions of them, and they just can't do it. They can't deal with it. It's too much. They'll do the Class B, assault, family violence, anything that's felony, homicides, burglars, they're all going into that TCIC system, Texas Crime Information Center system. They would overload the system with municipal courts. But they gave us the Omni program, which is the best thing since sliced bread for municipal courts and cities to collect because you're able to put a driver's license hold. Here's the problem with the DPS Omni system, though. I don't know if you remember, you're old enough like me. It used to be driver's license you had to renew every 2 years. DPS wanted to save money, then it became every 4 years. Now it's every 6. So if I'm in court here and I book and I have a warrant and I got my driver's license renewed, I got 6 years before I have to go back to renew it. But it is funny, as Judge Durbin said, I get people come back, it's 7 years and and they're like, oh yeah, I remembered I got a warrant out here. It's like, no, you didn't. You went back to get your driver's license, they wouldn't renew it. I know exactly why you're here. The timing's right there. I mean, so that's exactly what happened. Omni system is great. $30, defendant gets to pay the freight. That's a great system. Constables, another tool. We've used Precinct 2 and we've used Precinct 5. This is number 2 on the hit list, I think, because the constables program in Travis County, and I can speak from having been a deputy, there's a system called Tiburon. So if a police officer stops someone, let's say APD, guy's doing 75 miles an hour down 6th Street, pulls him over, he says, go ahead and run him TCIC or NCIC for felony warrants, but go ahead and run him locally on Tiburon. That dispatcher is running them locally, and guess what? If the city has a contract with the constable's office, every one of our warrants, their people input at constable's office. We don't do it, they do it. They input every one of our warrants, and you get, bing, it's going to show a hit. Oh, that guy's got 2 warrants at the Lago Vista. That APD officer is going to arrest that person and put him in the Travis County Jail. I know this because I go down to jail quite often from Lakeway. My court in Johnson City, we get people cruising around. You know why? Because they're going to 6th Street and they're cruising around and going downtown and all that, and they get stopped. They're going to get stopped again. If you got a habitual violator, it's not showing up in court with warrants. It's probably not mom and pop kettle, that are driving down the road. It's someone who's constantly violating the law and getting warrants, so they're going to get stopped again. So that system's great. And the best thing about the contract, the interlocal agreement with Precinct 2, the city doesn't have to pay a penny on it. You don't pay anything until that defendant is arrested, and then the defendant pays $50 warrant fee, goes to the constable. So they're taking all your warrants, have staff to input those warrants, it goes into that Tiburon system, and you will get those people picked up when they're cruising around Travis County, because every DPS trooper, every Travis County deputy, every constable, Austin Police, all of them will run that person through Tiburon. That's the way it works, and they will get picked up, and it costs the city nothing. You sign the contract. I mean, we've got a contract right now, and we use them in Johnson City. Lakeway uses them, and they're very effective, and the defendant gets to pay the $50. If you have somebody who truly is indigent and they can't pay, we get disabled veterans. I cut those guys and gals a lot of breaks, and I know Judge Durbin does too. Serve the country, you're disabled, you're making $700 a month on disability, you're going to get declared indigent if you plead, and you're going to walk out of the courtroom because you've served your country and you don't have the money to pay for it. And that's the way it is. And then you don't even have to pay the constable that gets no payment on that. It's indigence and it's cleared. So it's a great program. The constable program is a great tool. Vigilant can be a really good tool too, but you really have to have somebody that's going to go out and get that if if they're in Round Rock, who's going to go out there and get them? But to me, the thing that makes the most sense is very next tool. You got the Omni already. Jump on that, Constable Precinct 2, costs nothing. They have an interlocal agreement. They've used it 100 times. Y'all look at it, if it's good, get sent to the county attorney, and within a couple of months, you're already getting your warrants over there, and you'll see some results. That's my 2 cents. Any questions at all?
So, questions for,
Well, let me make sure I understand what's happened. We're talking about an issue that we need to fix, I agree.
Right.
500 plus grand. What I think I'm hearing, that's what I want to check, is that we're hearing it's at least 3 different ways to do this.
Correct.
Omni, Vigilant, and Constable. Have I?
Correct.
You got it.
2 and 3 don't cost us.
Mayor, I would make 2 motions. I don't know that that's parliamentarily correct, but one of them would be I move to table this item.
Right, I have a motion.
I'll say.
Did you have a comment?
Just to be clear, if you want to table the item, then someone would have to make a motion to bring this, we'd have to bring this item back up. Do you want to table it, or do you want to postpone any decision on it to a date certain?
No, I want to table it, and that's part of my second motion, but
Because
when I get a chance to
Because if
get
you
to the
take-
second motion.
if you take no action, then it just goes away. That doesn't mean it can't be brought back at a different time.
Right.
But,
Just don't take.
I
if you
want to
take-
get to that.
okay. So I've got a motion for table,
And I second.
and I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
All right, the motion is tabled on a vote of 6 to 1. It was, Tim was the nay.
Can I ask a question? Can we are we able to do the constable part, or do we have to?
Now, let me try this motion, see if this works. We'll see. I would move that we direct the staff to bring back to us the 3 alternatives that have been discussed tonight, advising us about the pluses and minuses, advantages and disadvantages of those, so that then we can then direct which one of those 3 options do we want to take, and then at another meeting, we would direct the staff to we would decide which way we want to go at that meeting, and then whatever we decided we want to do would come back for a 3rd meeting.
Right, I don't believe that takes a motion, but at the end of the meeting, when we get to our future agenda items, you can request
Okay.
something like that be brought to
All
us
right.
on a future agenda.
I got a pretty good idea which way I'd go now.
Yeah, Mayor, you're right. The problem is, this item that you just said, you tabled it, so we're moving on to the next item. We can't take any other action on it.
Right.
Just like Mayor's saying, if you would have left this one open, you could have said, staff, do that for the next meeting. We bring it back for the second hearing, and it would have magically appeared on the second hearing. You've tabled it, it's done.
This one is tabled, and then we'll give you direction on future agenda items later on in the meeting.
We will make it happen.
Thank you. All right, so now we move to agenda item number 6. Discussion and possible action regarding an application to the city council for a variance in the size and maximum height of a freestanding residential development project sign, temporary in nature, for the Hollows on Lake Travis and its sales office, Discovery Center. A required recommendation from the Building and Standards Commission was made at the regular scheduled meeting on April 9th, 2019. And who's got the lead on this one? Roy. Roy.
Yes, sir. Just to clarify, it's one single two-faced sign. It talks about lots for sale and also directs you to their sales office, which is called the Discovery Center. This sign is limited in height and size by our ordinance. It's fairly small for something that would appear adjacent to FM 1431. As a result, they applied to the Building and Standards Commission for a variance, asking for a sign that it turns out, once Councilmember Robbins sent me off on a little mission, it turns out it's the exact same size as the one at Tessera, the two larger ones. There's a smaller one at Tessera. At this particular location, the Building and Standards Commission thought that size was a little large. They had a recommendation of reducing its size to 8 by 16 rather than 10 by 20, and to also reduce it ever so slightly in size so that it would be 4 feet off the ground at the lowest portion, which would make it 12 feet at that point. It's a little bit in a hole right there, so this would kind of make it level at a uniform height at about 12 feet, reasonably adjacent to the right-of-way.
How temporary is this?
Ours, it's temporary in nature. A lot of jurisdictions will say it's got to be gone when you sell a certain percentage of the lots to individual property owners. Ours does not. Clearly, it's a for sale sign. When the builders are out, that would be an appropriate time for them to be gone. I don't know that the ordinance specifies anything more than that, other than it is that, it's a sign that's not to be left there permanently.
And Lakeside is permanent?
No,
Okay.
same thing. It's the exact same size, exact same purpose of the sign. It is for them to advertise that lots are for sale and to direct people to how to find them.
And if it takes 15 years to build out or longer, the size, are we leaving it up that long?
It's temporary.
Lakeside's been up for what, 4 or 5 years already?
Yes, sir. And they're opening new sections. One would presume that they're going to get fairly specific and change, and they have in fact changed. They've modified those signs on a number of occasions. In fact, they added the little banner at the top to let you know that they're the Master Plan Community of the Year. It is up there fairly new and a fairly recent designation. They changed the aerials as one of those is an aerial map, the smaller one. They update those. New builders, they update that. So it's temporary in nature, but yes, it changes. I'm used to seeing, or saying, okay, when the percentage of homes is this, but, generally speaking, they don't want them up there any longer than they're serving a purpose either.
And this sign for the hollows is gonna be pretty much the same size as Lakeside? There's no advantage?
Actually, and there was no serious objection from the applicant to reducing the size.
But the original request made it
Was for
same
10
size.
10
same
by
size-
20, exactly the same
Same as
size.
Lakeside.
The height is a little different because the topography is a little different. In fact, even the two signs at Lakeside, the one that's further to the west, the side of the right-of-way is much lower. It's in a hole. So it's it's 80 inches off the ground as opposed to the other one only being 30.
Just out of curiosity, how high is the one at Lakeside? Like
I said, the one that's closest to you, that's only 30 inches off the ground. But, that one's fairly level with the side of the right-of-way. You go to the far side, the one that's further west, that one's 80 inches off grade. but it's sitting in a hole. If it were 30 inches, you'd be looking over the top of it.
So if we grant a variance and it turns out to have problems that are unforeseen, is it pretty easy for us to pull the variance? Or do
Well,
they get to keep it?
You know, within the, it attaches. I mean, if you want to set a sunset as a condition, you need to do that. I don't think you get to do both. You can't make up one later. If you want to say, I want to grant this variance for a period of time no longer than X, that's got to be part of your motion. You don't get to make up your mind a second time, I don't
This
think.
sign is, they're pretty equal to both, right?
I'm sorry?
The signs are gonna be pretty equal with each other. We're not playing
It's only one side.
This is a
one-sided.
Well,
one
no,
sign, two-sided.
for each developer. We're treating them the same, more or less.
Yes, sir, except that to Sarah, it was part of their PDD. They asked for this, and this particular developer put certain signs in their PDD, but not this one. They have the permanent monument signs that they're going to be doing that's in their PDD, but they have a number of other signs that they're going through the application process. And, there's more variances coming probably.
Okay.
But this is the highway sign that says, come in here and look at a lot.
Yeah,
what
this
this
is
is.
replacing the existing one? That's
No, sir,
lost.
what they have there right now is more of a gateway treatment.
Okay.
That's permanent. This is, like I said, this is the, special, 2 lots for $1 or whatever, come in here, come look, the Discovery Center's this way, big arrow pointing, that sort of thing. It's the marketing sign. It's not the gateway sign or the permanent treatment to let people know where it is. This is to get people to come buy a lot.
And once they're built out, they could choose to just remove it just out of hand.
It most likely will. I mean, these are not the type of signs that are going to enhance their community. If nobody's got lots for sale, it serves no purpose.
Right.
So you have a note on here about the location. Location indicated in the aerial photograph encroaches on the 1431 right-of-way.
I was just warning the applicant more than anything. They submitted 2 documents. One was the plat, and it obviously shows the property line. They correctly located their sign in relation to the property line, but then when they used an aerial map to do the same thing, they didn't have the property line to guide them, and it looked like they put it way too close to the road.
Okay, but we
I was
would,
just, right,
we would be ensuring that they're not encroaching on the right-of-way.
yeah, I'll go out there and help Greg and make sure she gets in the right place. I'm a little picky about
The
that, so.
variance would not address or give them latitude to
Right.
be in the.
I was just
right-of-way.
warning them that their documents aren't 100% consistent. Be careful. We have that happen a lot here, people not being careful enough finding where the property line is, and it's a pet peeve of mine.
So just for clarification, we're considering potentially 3 things. A, the original application,
10 by 20, right?
10 by 20, with a maximum height of 16 feet, was it?
Yes,
Okay, and then the building and standards recommended the 8 by 16 with a
12,
12-foot maximum height
correct.
or nothing. Is our third.
Well, yeah, which is 28 square feet is what they're allowed by, as I recall. With, I don't remember the height, but I think it was 8 total.
But they can still put up a sign without a variance.
Correct. It's just, it's a small sign that's probably contemplating
24
our normal roads,
This
or
says
a little
24
road.
square feet, maximum display area,
Right.
8 feet in height.
Right, and that would look good on some of our residential, normal streets, but 1431, it's a bit small. For that speed and,
Basically, you're,
well, the right-of-way's wider, so the sign's further away from the pavement.
when you're looking at what our ordinance says, basically you would be looking at one of the political campaign sites, 3 by 8. That's 24 square feet. That's where our ordinance is. So we can either consider nothing, the original application, or the building and standards recommendation.
And the applicants are here.
Does anybody want to hear from the applicants?
Sure.
You have anything to say?
If you would, please state your name and
Sure. My name is Ashley Rust. My address is 283 Day Ridge Drive, Dripping Springs, Texas, 78620. I brought some presentations just based off of the building committee's feedback with their recommendation on an 8x16. If you'd like, I can show you what it would look like just so you can get a visual.
sure.
Like you said, I apologize, but the red line, that is just kind of a general location. It's not exact, it's not to scale. I did it in Photoshop just to kind of give you an idea of where it would be placed on the lot. So, but we work with a great sign company that is very adamant about staying within the right of way. And so we'll make sure that all of those regulations are attended to. So one of the comments from the building committee's presentation, on the original artwork, it had a U-turn sign, and that they voiced a concern for safety. You know, just U-turning on 1431 is extremely dangerous, and so we scratched that idea, came up with new artwork, just generic, you know, thanks for visiting, or, you know, new lakefront homes from the 400s, and so we just made a general message for that back side of the sign. But like it was mentioned earlier, it's just one sign, double-sided. That's what the artwork will look like for an 8x16. I would still recommend that we go with a 10x20. I was out there on site this afternoon, and that grade does go down very, very steeply. And so, like I said before, 1431 is a 4-lane highway. It's got a very wide right-of-way easement, and so it may seem large while you're standing in here thinking, you know, look at that wall, that's probably 20 feet right there, that's huge. When you're standing in front of it, yes, it is huge, but when you're driving on the side of the highway, it looks like a postage stamp. It gets very small very quickly. So I think that I would need every single inch of that 10x20 if I'm granted that size.
If you do the 10x20, it'll be with this artwork?
Yes.
Will the 8x16 be the same artwork?
Yes, it'll be the same artwork. I can adjust it either way. It's the same scale, so it'll just be larger and more legible.
So our briefing has a statement in here that y'all acknowledge the recommendation of 8x16 and that would be acceptable.
Yes.
But not preferable necessarily.
Not preferable, but it would be acceptable.
Okay. All right. Any questions?
Does a time limit on the variance bother you guys?
No, we would like to have the opportunity to come back and do an extension if, you know, we decide to move on to new phases, new developments occur in the community like we anticipate. So if we decide to do a limit of, 2 to 3 years, I'd like the opportunity to come back and ask for an extension on that if we decide to move forward with other developments. That would require us to keep that sign there. But our intention is that after we're done, we've sold what we've needed to sell, and, everything is moving in the right direction. Once we have no longer use for the sign, then we're happy to pull it out.
You said 2 to 3 years. I was thinking more like 180 days or something. You feel like it's going to take that long to sell out, that you got a bunch of lots?
Well, just, with the idea of future phases and developments that are, foreseen in the future.
Yeah, it'd take 30 years to sell it all.
I'm Mike Conte. I'm also with Legacy Communities. Just to your question there, we're probably somewhere between 500 to 700 homes. So I pray that we sell it in 180 days. It'll be a great year. But more realistically, it's probably a 3 to 5 year plan. So that's why we say we'd like to come back if at the 3-year mark we're not sold out. We'd like to come back and request an extension. But once we're done and the development is complete, then we'd be more than happy to pull the sign out. I think all of our residents would probably demand that we did at that point anyways. So that's probably where it falls.
And as the seller of the property, it's to your advantage to make sure that you maintain it, keep it in good stead. You don't want a sign that's half torn up or falling down, that kind of thing. So.
Absolutely not. Yep, that is one of my pet peeves, is signs that are, dangling in the wind and get faded and sun-beaten over time. But like I said, we work with a great sign company that has very good quality work, and so they take measures to make sure that the sun doesn't fade their artwork. And so we have that, and then also I anticipate changing up the design every now and then, maybe every twice a year, if that, just with new specials, new things that going on in the development, sometimes it's nice to change up the artwork and kind of advertise new and exciting things that are going on in the community. But we will make sure that it's well-maintained, freshly painted.
Roy, if they change the design, does that require them to come back?
No, no.
Okay. All right.
Mayor, I'd like to
Thank
may I
you.
make a motion. May I make a motion?
Yes, you may.
Mayor, I move that we approve the variance granted or suggested by the Building and Standards Commission, but I would amend it to going back to the 10 by 20 size sign.
So, okay, so I've got a motion and a second, seconded by Pro Tem Williams. So for clarification, you're recommending
Increasing the size?
the original application?
The original application.
So I
is-
don't think that takes an amendment, right? Because
Well,
Right.
you can
and
just
please
say,
mention
you
the
can
height
just say
as
you
well.
were, you can say, instead of saying I believe the motion should be just to accept the original application. Is that not correct, Aaron?
Yeah, yes, that would be correct unless there's some change to the height. So size of the sign plus the height is what we need for clarification.
What did you say, Roy? I didn't.
Well, there's two elements to the variance, the size of the display and the height,
In the height.
both. And
I
So
believe.
you're looking at either a 10 by 20 with a 16-foot maximum, or an 8 by 16 with a 12-foot, or you can modify either or.
Right.
We're not
Some
giving any
combination there.
advantage to any other them over another developer or anybody that comes in.
I don't believe so.
No,
This would basically give them the same signage as what Tessera has right now.
exactly.
Yes. Okay.
And my move, or my motion would be to accept the original proposal.
With the 20-foot height.
Yes, sir.
12,
12 foot.
No, wait.
12 foot.
si-
16.
16.
16
10 by
foot.
20 with a
Okay.
16-foot height.
height. 10 by
I've
20,
got too many numbers running through my head.
10 by 20, 16-foot height.
All right, so
And I
he
second
has changed his motion to the original application,
Yeah,
and you second that?
10 by 20 with the 16-foot height max.
All right. You got that, Sandra? Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No,
Mayor Pro Tem.
Dave Williams. All right, motion carries 6-1. All right, number 7. Discussion and possible action regarding recommendation of contract award for the construction of the 2019 street rehab Phase 1 project and authorize the city manager to execute the contract.
Mayor, this project is a continuation of our street rehab program for the year. As we've talked about on 3 different occasions, the city crews or city staff is working on a street rehabilitation program update so that we can present that back to council. The plan has been to get that program updated, get that to council. But in the meantime, we want to be active in the streets that we are resurfacing and doing work on. As we've stated before, this would be the 3rd round of the resurfacing projects. This project would cover 2 streets, and those 2 would be Constitution and Nantucket. We did have 3 bids for the project, with the lowest bid on a unit price total of $41,592.20, and that would be to Alpha Paving. The other 2 are Lone Star and Austin Underground.
Do we have any kind of incentives to do it under budget, or do we have penalties for over budget?
Mayor, I do not know if we have any penalties on this one. I know we don't have incentives for doing it
I'm sorry,
under
Council, I
budget.
didn't quite
Do we
understand.
have penalties in here for going over budget?
Going over budget, this is a unit price contract, so the only reason it goes over budget is if they construct more, there's different site conditions. So.
But is that on, is that, if he goes over budget, is that on us?
If he goes over budget, he cannot go over budget unless we approve it first. So we'll have to approve it first before they spend more money.
and that's in the terms of the contract.
Yes, sir, it's a unit price contract.
And you think they can do it for that price?
Yeah, we got the bid, so yeah. They're a local contractor. One of the things that we're doing differently, and it's probably not in the summary, but we're trying different mixes and different layers and see what works. We did a different type of mix here in front of the city hall. And we're noticing some things. There's oxidation that some of the granulars start coming up with different thicknesses. So we'll see how those work, because it may work. Textile recommends one thing, but it's our textile roads. And it may work for them, but probably not going to work for us. We don't want to spend $500,000 or $1 million in something that Textile does, or maybe a consultant proposes, but it really doesn't work for our streets. We don't have enough. We don't have enough roadways, and the base beneath it may not be a typical base material. So we're just trying different things, see how they work, especially during the rainy season. So we're going to observe it very closely towards middle of summer or end of summer, see how that all holds up. And moving forward, we're going to have a better idea, so we have long-lasting roads.
So these are bid at 1.25 inch overlay. What did you guys do out here?
This one is 1.25 inch. It's a different type of mix. This is type B. And then the one that we're going to use on this one is a type D. It's a bunch of jargon, but it's just you can lay thinner. It's a little bit smoother. It costs more. So we'll see how it holds up. We know we've tried it up by the airport on one of the roads. We know that it can hold the traffic. We just want to see how the surface itself, see if it oxidizes, see if the granulars start coming off of it eventually. I guess you can call it experimenting a little bit. Yeah. But at the same time, we get roads. So we get paved roads.
I'm not sure I'm happy with experimenting.
It's probably the wrong.
I mean, if I'm
word
gonna pave
to
a road, I
use.
want it to be fixed. You know, we went through and experimented with some stuff last year and.
That was that was a $300,000-$400,000. So no,
And it was chip seal.
Chip seal is incredibly temperamental. You have to do it at the particular time of year. You got to make sure whoever's inspecting it knows to make sure that the granulars are clean. Because if the granular materials are not clean, if they're not dry, it just won't stick. It's just going to come off regardless of how much you compact it, how much oil you put on it. That's what happened on that. It was a combination of different things on the last one.
So what type have we used in the past, other than just last year's chip seal? I mean, what our current streets, what are they? Are they a type B, type D?
Our current streets are a mix of chip seal and hot mix. These types that I'm mentioning, these are hot mix types. It's basically you put it on hot and you compact it while it's still hot, and then when it cools down, it solidifies. So that's what's in the ground. It's really hard to tell. I can tell if it's a chip seal or hot mix, or if it was laid down, but what the mix was itself when it was laid down, it's hard to tell.
What do they use on Lakeside? Do you know what they?
I don't remember the mix, but it is hot mix. So that's good material.
So the three companies, what experience do we have with these three companies?
I would have been happy with any of these guys.
I'm sorry?
I would have been happy with any of these guys doing hot mix. Chip seal or other types of products, some of them are better than the others.
Because Alpha Paving did the chip seal last year, right?
Alpha Paving had a subcontractor do the chip seal.
Okay,
So
but
they
they also
themselves-
did the intersection at Boggy and Loman,
The
correct?
intersection at
And that was a
Boggy.
hot mix.
That was a hot mix, yes, sir.
So they're not allowed to sub this one out? Alpha
They are
Paving?
not, no, sir. And we have, with the new standards you guys approved, there's a caveat in there that if you have a certain subcontractor that has a certain percentage or higher, then you have to list them out. So none of them are listed out. So they do the work themselves. And we know that any of these guys do the work themselves on the hot mix.
So what have we spent to do this out here with our own crew and our own hot mix?
I haven't seen the invoices yet. I believe we estimated at around $8,000 for the materials.
And are we going to complete the parking lot?
Yes, sir. We had it scheduled for next week, but it's gonna rain next week, so we're scheduled.
Looks great out there.
There is a lock in the pavement. If somebody lost the lock, it's smashed in there. Try to get it out.
Better than beer cans.
No, we do not want to get it out, because that'll start a hole, that'll turn into a bigger hole, which will turn into a bigger hole.
Give a mouse a cookie.
That lock is there forever.
Can you talk about where this project is going to be?
Constitution Square, both of them are on the south side of the lake. And the reason why that.
Outside of the lake, that puts it in the lake.
On the south side of the city, close to the lake. My apologies. Nantucket Cove is next to Nimitz Avenue, I believe. And Constitution Square is close to Continental and those streets down along the lake.
And how wide are the streets, and how long is this project as far as the length of the overlay?
I don't remember the length of the overlay, but I do remember the square yard is about 3,200 square yards in total. I don't remember the length, to be honest.
Is it all of Constitution?
Constitution Square.
Oh, Constitution Square.
Yes, sir.
Okay. No, I'm not familiar with that. But could you put it in?
Constitution Square or Constitution Cove?
Square. Constitution Square. There's a Constitution Cove that one is in good condition mostly.
Could you give us an idea of like how many blocks long these would be if you took a standard city block?
Standard city block, the Cove itself will probably be a city block, and the Constitution Square will be probably 2 blocks.
So it's gonna be, so 3,200 square yards, you're looking at about 24 feet wide, 2 lanes, and then you're looking at about 1,200 feet in length. That's, a block is usually
300 to 400 feet.
yeah, so you're looking at about 3 blocks worth of pavement on a 2-lane road.
And we are having a contractor come in, and we're gonna look at some different types of pavement that haven't been used in the city in the past. So we'll bring those up to you guys in the future.
And the amount was $41,592.20?
Yes, sir.
And that money is already in the budget for the street department?
We are gonna use Cap Metro grants funds to do that
Oh, okay.
Entirely?
entirely. Yes, sir.
Wow,
Even better.
that's good.
And some money left over.
Super.
Sounds good to me.
Are we ready for a motion?
Well, I think maybe this was stated, and why are we looking at subcontractor, not city crews?
Oh, that, it's the timing of it. It's a pretty long job, and contractor has all the equipment. Our city crews can handle maybe Nantucket Cove is probably a longer cove, than it would take us 2 days to do that. When you work with hot mix, you really need to start doing it. When you start on one street, you really need to get to a stopping point. You can't really stop halfway through and come back the next day and do the other half. It's just very unproductive.
Mayor, our long-term plan is, if you see, this is our first test project out here in the parking lot. I think a couple of us were standing out there the other day, and as Eric said, we're testing our ability to not only lay it down. We were out there, I say we, those guys were doing all the work all day long. They were there from before 7. They stayed until after 7. They spent a 12-hour day, and there was a bunch of people out there, and we still don't know what it is. We want to learn it. So if we're going to experiment, we're experimenting here with our guys. These guys know what they're doing, and that's why we've changed that layout plan a little bit. Our goal is, with the new machine and with our trained guys, we're going to go out here and hit some streets. I think I pointed a couple out to you the other day. We should just hit it and get it. We still want to make them good when we get out there and do those roads. So a little more training before we're going out into the world. The parking lot's one thing, but the city streets are a little different. But look at those
I
numbers.
just wanted to make sure that is our end goal.
That's
is
our
to
goal. Yeah, our goal.
Eventually have city crews doing the work as
Doing,
opposed to contractors.
sharing that load every year, especially if we're going to go $1 million of projects a year to get streets completely recovered. We'd love to see our guys out there representing $500,000 worth of those projects and these other projects at another $500,000. And don't forget, at the end of the year, our crews are going to go out and they're going to be working on the repair program in hopes of repairing Boggy Ford. So as we keep moving the contractor projects forward, our crews are going to be working on the repairs to Boggy so that we can redo all of Boggy potentially this calendar year. So that's still our end goal, should something catastrophic happen. But other than that, we're going to move forward and knocking these out. What I was saying earlier is, as Eric already mentioned with the parking lot, if that's 8,000 to 10,000 and this is 42,000 for these small, hopefully we turn these two into 6 or 5 or 6 streets instead of just the 2. It may require us to add staff or this, that, and the other to do all the things, but you're right, 100%, that's our goal, is to
But that's what we're working on.
do more with less, be more efficient, and recover the entire city.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right. Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we accept the contract and award it to the Alpha Paving for the construction of the 2019 street rehab Phase 1 project, and authorize the city manager to execute the contract.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by David Williams. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, the contract's awarded unanimous. Right. 8, discussion and possible action on a resolution 19-1791 by the City Council of the City of Lago Vista, Texas, declaring certain real property owned by the City of Lago Vista to be exempt property pursuant to Texas Local Government Code, Section 272.001B, prior to subsequently considering the conveyance of that property in accordance with applicable state laws and in a manner beneficial to the City of Lago Vista.
Mayor, this item we've discussed a few times. We did give you a new handout that is at your seat. It shows the resolution, and this resolution includes maps to coincide with the words that are on this resolution. Through the previous discussions, we've talked about conveying strips and property that were acquired by the city to adjacent property owners that could potentially enhance their property and dispose of that property from the city so that we don't have liabilities or maintenance required with that. So we've gone through this process with our development services team and with our legal team, trying to look at the right way to present this back to council. What we've presented as this draft is to have a resolution that would allow us to use a, what's the word I'm looking for? A survey, not a survey. Appraisal, thank you, ma'am. To use an appraisal to determine the fair market value of these pieces of land. And then the map shows all of the properties that would be included in this resolution. If council were to approve this resolution, then anytime we would get a request from a property owner, we would bring those back specifically to the council for approval of each individual lot. We have excluded a large section that we were looking at before. We basically used a Mercator line and said everything to the north of this line was out. We're also excluding the waterfront lots because we have an ordinance from way back in the day. I mean, way back in the day. I think that's when Frank was working, that we're actually going to bring an update to the council to consider. I mean,
You're way back, Frank.
way back.
You're way back.
2010 to be
Whew,
exact.
I'm telling you, that's decades ago.
Yeah.
So anyway, Mayor, we excluded those lakefront lots, and we excluded the a certain segment of lots that we said could still have beneficial use to the city.
Did you want to deal with the word negotiate?
Mayor, there would be one proposed change on the resolution. It would be on the back side, so page number 2. The very top says, authorizes the city manager to consider and negotiate formal offers. Since we have, if someone brings us that appraisal, then the recommendation would say to consider formal offers, and we would just take out and negotiate. That way, on Roy and our side, when it comes to us, they're going to give us that appraisal, or we're going to use the appraisal we already have. It's set, square feet, multiply it out, that's the number.
No negotiating.
No negotiating.
Questions? All right, this is an action item, so.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
make the motion that we approve resolution number 19-1791 with the mentioned change in the language to remove and negotiate from the second page.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second by Art. Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion carries unanimous. All right, we are on number 9, discussion items. Discussion regarding appointing members to the Youth Advisory Committee. This is mine. All right, so my Youth Advisory Committee does not coincide with all of our other committees because of the school year. I currently have 3 remaining members of my Youth Commission. We only started with 4. One of them resigned midterm, so I'm down to 3. However, it is that time of year that I need to put out publications to the school district advertising the opening for the Youth Advisory Committee. And then once that is done, in May, I will bring in the applications and we will take those up for consideration.
How many people do you have on the committee?
We have room for 7.
7. So you have 4.
Yeah, we only had 4 initially apply last year. I'm down to 3 right now. To be honest, I would like to do this for this year and see what kind of application I get this year. If I do not have any further input than I did this past year, then I will probably come to you at some point and say it will be time to disband that committee. The ones I have were excited, but they never really developed an action plan, that was a citywide. They wanted to do stuff that was local school district type stuff, and I wanted them to focus more citywide, and it just didn't happen this year. But I would like to advertise it and try one more year and see what kind of input I get from my Youth Advisory Committee. Yes,
Is there a minimum age?
high school.
Mayor, we did have some positive discussion with Mr. Garcia at the high school and then with Mr. Panter in this last year about some additional students that may be interested, so hopefully we'll gain more interest.
And my 3 remaining members, I will meet with them next week. This will be our April meeting, and they have been tasked with already to start recruiting, because I've put them on warning that, hey, you're going to have to contribute. This was why y'all were stood up in the first place. So they're supposed to be recruiting as well, so, we'll see. But yes, we have got great feedback from staff. I have also tasked my Young Families Advisory Group, which is not a
committee of the city itself. It's just one of my advisory groups. For them to talk to their family members that have high school kids and encourage them to apply as well. And that's all I have. If you have any questions, comments. All right, we will move to discussion item number 10. Discussion regarding Keep Lago Vista Beautiful funding request for Art in Public Spaces program.
Mayor, this is the first time presenting this item back to the city council. This is a continuation of the request to KLVB to continue the infusion of art inside of our community. The community has long been a champion for displaying our art. We have a couple projects here within the community between the wind spiral and the windmill that are public art displays. And KLVB has come back and located a piece of art. It is known as Glee. Currently, as the staff summary says, Glee resides in Georgetown, Texas, but it will be removed from their art in public spaces program. And so this was an opportunity for the city to welcome this new program and to bring another piece of art into the community. KLVB is requesting funding to purchase this item and then bring it to Lago so that here in the near future, when we develop our monument garden plan to present back to council, they would have this piece of art to anchor that project.
And the artist is, I was looking at the picture, Cindy Diebold.
Cindy Diebold.
And where is she from?
Lago Vista.
She is from Lago Vista?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because that was going to be my question. $5,000, I don't know if that's a lot or not, but if we're going to put art up in my city, I want it to be from a local artist. Our city, not my city, sorry.
She said this was a sculpture of you, Mayor, is what she said.
It's got some ownership.
There's not a gut on that thing.
You're not looking at it the right way. So, Mayor, as we know, this is a big deal. This is something a little different than what we've done in the past. One of the things that we, as I said, we challenge KLVB, who already does a lot of cleaning and organizing, to give us a longer-term plan, and this is part of that plan. The locations have not been set, but we have some ideas. What we want to do is we want to give back a couple of proposals back to the city to review what we're going to do, where we're going to attract traffic to, and the areas that we want to slow down people to look at different art.
This is hot tax funded, correct?
Yes, sir. There are a number of cities in the great state of Texas that have art in public places programs, and that's one of the things, as Councilor Robbins has pointed out, to be able to use hot tax to provide for these funds, for these artwork.
Well, when you see the statue in Georgetown, it's very visible when you're in that downtown area where this is.
Is it a showstopper?
Well, because you're going to the tax office, it's a showstopper. It's like, okay, let me look at something artful before I have to go in here and deal with taxes, so.
Well, if it's supposed to be a representation of me, it's going to be a showstopper.
Okay.
Yep.
Good or bad, depending on how you look at
This
it.
might be a good project to use at Bowden Point. Slow people down on Boggy Ford.
Yeah, we've looked at a bunch of places, KRVB and Josh and company, we've all looked at that. This is a relatively short kind of statue to go in Bowden. That was the thought there. But we've looked at that one. The council thinks that's a better place to go. We'll go back and say, guys, guess what? We're back to where we originally thought we'd put this. But the idea generally is that this would be the first of a sculpture garden that would be in this vicinity. But there are several places we looked at.
But Bowden Point is a really beautiful place and can be even prettier, I think. if we-
No question.
If we added something like
Yep.
this.
It's not as accessible as it is here, though, and it might fit into the general discussion about having this as a community center, bring more people in here for other activity than just City Hall or the library.
So this piece of art is going to be coming back to Lago Vista when it leaves Georgetown to the artist's home or something?
No, this a
No, I mean,
purchase.
if we don't buy it.
What happens to it if we don't buy it?
What happens a lot of times, so these, once they go through this program, they go ahead and put them up for sale, and then they relocate them to another community. Typically, looking at Round Rock's program and Georgetown's program, they're able to find buyers that are there. Obviously, if they don't find a buyer, then it would go to wherever they want to.
I hate to ever stifle anything. I think KLVV does great things. But I feel like we need our master plan a little bit more laid out. Just a few months ago, we were talking about moving City Hall. I feel like we need our master plan a little more firmed up before we start spending money on art to put in public places. We're not sure what public places we're trying to draw people to.
Well, I think the question has to be, when is this going to go up for sale? Because that might be the triggering point.
Yeah, November, and one of the neat things about this, because we're talking about moving it, it's portable. You just have to unscrew it from the base.
So it can be relocated if we wanted to put it in another premier position like a city hall.
Yeah.
One of the things, Mayor, that is interesting about this Art in Public Places program is you do put them on a pedestal that, as you see in the picture, makes them removable. So I think this one has 4 bolts that keep that in the ground. The potential opportunity to do something as a monument garden, either in Bowden or here at City Hall or in another location, is that you try and keep those removable so that once you cycle through each year, then it goes, something else could go there, or you change the location of your garden. As you see here, this is in the center of a roadway, and so you could put this in our medians in a location. You could put it on the side of the highway. You could do a lot of different locations. It could go at a sports complex inside a rose garden. It does have versatility to move it around. We did have a picture, and I must have lost it, that showed one of our local citizens standing beside it to give you the height relative to the size.
7.5 feet tall, but so it's pretty, not huge.
I'd eventually like to see an artists guild with works for sale, eventually. So this would be a good start. It's a local person
Absolutely.
and it's movable.
I like the fact that it's a use of our hot tax. This is money that has been sitting there for a long time. And anything that we can do that uses that money to better the city, to me, sounds like a really good idea.
All right, I have a citizen who has signed up to speak on this. Joanne Smith, if you would like to address the council.
Mayor, Councilman, my name is Joanne Smith. I live at 20609 Oak Ridge. First of all, I appreciate KLVB and I support KVLB through their road cleanup and beautification efforts. My husband and I have adopted Thunderbird as our cleanup street for years. I come to you tonight because originally, I think in the packet, it shows that y'all were going to put it over here on the side. I'm not really fond of that particular idea that it comes there unless it does be moved to expand this building when y'all are ready for City Hall. I would prefer it not go there. I did like what you said about going to Bowden Point. That was one of my I was going to suggest that, or even Dawn Drive, in the median there, because people come and go. I did have down possibly to use the hot tax, so that was a plus. But I just really would like for y'all to follow the CMP for the expansion And the one thing I do fear is if you have it out here, kids are going to climb on it, because one day I was coming home, I live off of Thunderbird, and there were 2 children out on the Eagle, climbing on the Eagle, with their dad with his back to them on his cell phone. So my concern is kids climbing on it, especially if it's there during the Christmas time when we have so many kids here. So, but, pardon?
A little rail around it, usually that stops most.
But anyway, I would love for y'all to really consider Dawn or Bowden Point. So I think that's a great location for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can we run a current through it?
Mayor, you can do whatever you want to.
He wants to electrify.
Nice little tingle.
So I have no idea where Bowden Point is, I gotta admit it.
It's the Y.
Going to Highland Lakes, Bayou
Okay,
Ford,
gotcha.
to Highland Lakes Drive.
Just never put that together.
Bowden's one of those parks, Mayor, that we've looked at before, and it's a great space, but it's limited in immediate parking and then traffic. So part of our dialogue's been, could you put something there that has traffic calming, which I don't know if that's traffic calming or if that causes more accidents. So the thought being that it could be utilized a lot more efficiently, as well as a lot of the spaces that we have in the community. So as we said earlier, the goal is to be able to continue a program and bring different things to our community so that people at least stop to think. Does that look like a certain art? Do you see something else? And
Yeah. I don't know, as Ms. Smith had commented, that tip of Dawn Drive right there almost looked like it could be waving at people as you come down Loman at dawn.
Yeah. It's an eye catcher.
So the location,
We'll have to find the right
Well,
location.
the idea that it may be portable is a good idea, because maybe we could cycle it through several places.
different locations, yeah.
Mayor, what we want to have to council very soon, we want to have the proposed layout for our parking lot town center, just to give that to council so you can review it. And then the Dawn Drive, we're actually working on that right now with KLVB to do an update to the whole Dawn Drive, Dawn, what are we calling that?
Center median.
Yeah, something else.
The sailboat.
Boulevard.
Whatever that spot is that we all know I'm
Yes.
talking about, we have a design that we're going to come back to council on that. For that one, we're waiting for a bigger community meeting about branding, logo, but we're going to go ahead and bring you the general redesign to see if that's something that's attractive. So I think there's going to be a lot of these options. And then for those medians as well, I think this gives us something in terms of median locations that could be nice. The only thing is when you put them in the medians, we need to make it breakaway for traffic safety and standards.
I like the idea of doing a Where's Waldo on this thing, just move it around different parts of town.
Put a red and white striped shirt on it.
So where's Glee?
At Christmas.
I know, being in the Midland, Odessa area, there were a number of painted horses and painted buffaloes that were done by local artists, and those were moved all over town. You'd see one in front of a hotel for a while, then you'd see them running a slab down the road a mile, and the next thing you'd know, the buffalo would be down there. The horse would be downtown, and then the next thing you'd be out by the university. So my thought is that we should go on and approve the money for this, go on and buy this piece of art. It's hot tax money, it's not going to be used for something else. Get the piece of art, and then we can sit down and decide where we want to put it. And if we put it somewhere on a slab and we don't like it, we can move it. It can go someplace else. So I would make a motion that we approve.
discussion.
This is just.
Oh, is it just discussion tonight?
Discussion.
Oh, we can't, okay, never mind.
Not yet.
Pass, next time.
I do have one more question on it, though.
All right.
How do I know $5,000, this thing's worth $5,000?
Well, you only
I am
paid
not-
two.
Is
I
in
am
the eye of
not-
the beholder.
I am not an art connoisseur
So tell you the process, Mayor, what we're doing is, that includes a pedestal. So if it comes back to council after this discussion, the $5,000 would actually be purchased by the city. We would purchase this piece of art and we would store the piece. The request comes through KLVB. I believe it's cleaner for the city to purchase that, but in terms of valuing that, I do not think we have someone on staff, but I could definitely ask if there was someone that says, what is it worth? We do have a list of the other projects in Georgetown and Round Rock, so I could bring those to you and show you the comparison prices at the next council meeting if you're going to consider it there.
Might be also interesting to see what they paid for it. Because I'm sure Georgetown had to pay for it to get it there in the first place.
So Lampasas, Texas has a pretty nice sculpture garden in there. It's quite varied, so they might be a resource to talk to about what you pay to get these.
Let's not lose sight of the fact that this was done by a local
Local
artist.
artist, right.
I think that trumps a lot of stuff.
And hotel tax is
Yes.
difficult to use, so.
All right, is that it?
Okay.
Joanne? Okay. Number 11, city manager reports.
Mayor, I have one report to give. It's a follow-up of the trash off comment you made earlier. Yeah, we did have a successful trash off, but we also had a very good meeting with Waste Connections. They're going to be adding an additional truck to collect on Wednesday and Thursdays. So for all the people that are concerned about trash not getting picked up, they already have an additional truck operating on Mondays. So now it'll be Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, one additional vehicle working here in the community. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, future meetings. Consider our schedule and any items for future council meetings. Think we
talked about the constable
Yeah.
suggestion.
I think you've got direction on a future agenda item on that one.
Got it.
We have Chief Donnie Norman coming to speak.
Yes, and that's already scheduled for
Okay.
May 2nd. Please make sure my youth advisory,
Yeah, got it.
so May 2nd. And then I guess we'll do the final vote on May 16th. I just need to make sure the kids, need to schedule it so the kids know by the end of school that they've been appointed.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, do we have any reason to reconvene into executive session?
Oh.
No.
All right, I will declare this meeting adjourned at 8:27 PM.
Perfect.
Boy, I'm feeling
We were
hungry.
wrong.
I'm feeling hungry. What am I going to get? I'm going to get me something good.
I'm gonna give you a donut.